Power doesn't corrupt people. People corrupt power. Good evening. This is The Role of Law, and our discussion here today on the role of law is with the former Director General of the Bribery Commission, President's Counsel, Sarath Jayamanne. A very good evening, sir, and welcome to the show.
Very good evening to Sarath, yes.
Of course, corruption, I think we've been speaking about corruption since the day we gained independence here in Sri Lanka. Corruption has been one of the most embedded, most long-lasting issues that Sri Lanka has been suffering with. Some are even of the opinion that if we can handle corruption, do away with corruption, we as a country can develop beyond the belief of anyone else. Sir, you headed Sri Lanka's most prominent unit in the fight against corruption, the Bribery Commission. And during your time at this Bribery Commission, given your experience, since the role of law is dedicated to discuss specifically issues that are related to the legal framework of Sri Lanka, comparing Sri Lanka's anti-corruption laws, the anti-corruption legal framework here in Sri Lanka with other countries, how do we fare on the international arena?
Thank you very much, Sharan. It is very sad to say that we are lagging behind. Our main bribery law is the Bribery Act that was introduced in the year 1954. Then come in 1994, Bribery Commission Act, normally we refer it to as Handbook Act. It was established in the year 1994. Since 1994, not a single amendment has been brought to our anti-corruption law. Of course, there was a minor amendment in the year 2018 with regard to the filing of cases. Earlier corruption cases were filed only in the magistrate court. Now we can file those cases in the High Court. That was a very minor amendment. Apart from that, we have not amended our laws. That itself shows how far lagging behind Sri Lanka is. What is the reason? Everyone talks about bribery. Everyone talks about corruption. But no one puts their philosophical or criminological background. Everyone wants to eradicate or minimize bribery and corruption. But if you look at other countries, for example, in 1950s or 56, the Singapore, they were engrossed in so many incidents of corruption. They, in fact, Lee Kuan Yew, they once visited Sri Lanka, and he had a dream. He said, I want to see my country, that is his country, Singapore, to be like Colombo. And we had enough resources for that, Sri Lanka. And Singapore, they never had any resources. Then what did he do? His main motto was, I will make my public service as the main resources. They should be above board. They should be treated like gems. So therefore, he thought if his country to be brought to a higher level, there must be a clean, highly integrated public service. That is where we started. Then they started developing their laws. For example, if you look at those countries which are in the highest ranking in the anti-corruption, number one is New Zealand, number two is Singapore. Then I'll take countries which are close to us. Close to means not in territory, but in other sense. Take Hong Kong, number 15 in the world ranking. Take Bhutan, number 25. Malaysia, number 55.
What is Sri Lanka's rank like?
When I was there, originally it was 95. During my period, it came to number 89. So if you look at these countries with whom I had developed so much connections, very close rapport with, especially with Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong and Bhutan. What I have learnt is they are always updating their laws. Why is that? Even in their law schools, it is essential. They learn bribery and corruption as a subject. And even in other curricula, they have to learn integrity as a subject. Even every legal officer in the public sector, especially in Hong Kong or Singapore, they must be familiar with the anti-corruption laws in this country. So therefore, you would have a set of lawyers, you would have a set of profession who have mastered the subject. But I must say, I have been a lecturer at the law college for the criminal procedure and evidence for nearly 13 years and in the faculty for 5 years. I have not taught a one word about corruption. One word. So if the lawyers do not bribery and corruption basic principles and laws, how can we expect there should be a jurisprudence in this country with regard to bribery and corruption. That is where I think we have faltered. Coming back to the so that is why we don't have the much advanced and simpler laws in this country, bribery and corruption. So if you take countries like Hong Kong, Malaysia, even Bhutan, they have a highly sophisticated, highly advanced, but in a simple language, they have drafted laws. For example, countries like Canada, even in the foreign ministry, there are about 25 lawyers. Their main task is to see how best that they would amend their laws in keeping with the international norms. We became a party to the United Nations Convention Against Corruption in the year 2004. And we have never, since then, we have never developed, amended any single law. By merely repeating these words won't do. You can ask the question, what I have done during my 3-year regime.
That was actually my next question.
I knew you. That's a natural question. We have to ask that. I have studied, compared these laws in other countries, and I'm humbled to say, right? We have prepared a new anti-corruption law. For that preparation, we got the approval of the then cabinet, and for it was prepared 1.5 years back, and it was sent to the legal draftsman for necessary changes, fine tuning, and then there was change of this government. There were 2 elections, so I don't hear and see anything happening to that anti-corruption law. So that is why I say, if we want to go as a country, rather than coming before the media and criticizing the existing commission or commissioners, you must see how best we can develop the law. So we have already prepared. Of course, the new government can look into that. If they want to make any changes, fine, they must do that and come out with the new anti-corruption law. If you ask me a question, what are the main features of the anti-corruption new law, I can explain in a nutshell. For example, in our country, so far, we want to see people are sent to jail. Fine, if you can catch each and every one.
Sometimes even before they are convicted.
Yes, fine, if you can send to jail. But we have to understand, there's a presumption of innocence. There's a golden thread in the entire criminal justice system. And therefore, you have to conduct investigation. In order to conduct investigation, you must have evidence. From where you get evidence? If you want to get evidence, you must have witnesses. I'll challenge you, since I have been in the Bribery Commission for 3 years. It is the poor people or middle class people who come and complain to the Bribery Commission. And they will complain, so and so in the government sector ask for a bribe. And they have some kind of backbone. And they will cooperate, they will support the CBOC investigators, and they will come along with the CBOC investigators to catch the thieves. Right. But I would say big businessmen, the people who live in the upper class, they are only interested in earning money. They will never come to the Bribery Commission and support to catch big sharks. That is why the question is being always asked, why big sharks are not arrested. Because the victims, so-called victims who gives the bribe and from whom the bribes are asked, they never come and complain. So in that respect, I must respect and honor this Indian gentleman who says some top rank from 2 officers in the government sector, they have asked for a bribe. And he supported the Bribery Commission. He gave that they are full of supporters. That is why that during my regime that we were able to catch the top highest officers in the country, Chief of Staff of the President Office and other senior officer. Why? Not because of our
Chairman
skill.
of the Timber Corporation.
Yes, not because of our skill. We also had a skill, definitely there is no question. But the people are coming forward. But now what happened? Every politician is blaming another politician who belongs to another party, saying that he is a thief. And they are trading charges. They will sometimes come before the Bribery Commission wall and say, I have lodged a complaint. What is there in the complaint? Mostly, it is hearsay material. They are opinions. Opinions will not bring a person, anyone to the gallows or the jail. So we need to have a hard evidence. Sometimes when it comes to corruption and not the bribery, these corruptions are very complicated investigators. Best example,
grand scale corruption cases.
corruption, even the middle scale corruptions, right? You need the sophistication. Right. I'll give one example. No sooner I was appointed as a DG bribery, I did a study and found out what are the mistakes in our system. The first mistake I found out was we don't have a highly sophisticated investigators. We, for the right throughout the entire history, we have had only the police officers. With all due respect to them, I would say we didn't have even a single graduate in the Bribery Commission. But people are blaming the Bribery Commission where the results. Compared to that, what is happening in other country? I happen to take part in various international conferences. Even a country like Bhutan, they don't have a single police officer in the Anti-Corruption Commission. Who are conducting investigations? Investigations are conducted by the engineers, accountants, auditors, senior public service managers.
Professionals in their field.
Because they have a quick uptake. They are intelligent. They'll take only few hours or few days to understand the entire transaction, whereas an ordinary police officer, he will take months and months. So you need accountants, auditors. We don't have a single accountant in the Bribery Commission. We don't have a single chartered accountant. People coming behind the media, before the media and attacking the Bribery Commission. I have seen, even recent past I have seen, so many millions have been spent to Bribery Commission. How many people have been arrested? But they don't understand. So what did I do? I once wrote to the chairman of the Hong Kong Anti-Corruption Commission. Why? Because in the Asian region, they are the topmost after Singapore. Singapore normally very difficult to approach at the early part of my career. Right. Ultimately, I got around them also. But in early part, I wrote to Singapore saying, can you please extend your courtesy by giving our officers some kind of a training. Right. He wrote back to me. These are the exact words. Mr. Jayamanne, so and so. We understand still your investigations are still being conducted by the police officers who belongs to the police department. At any point, he can be transferred out from the Seabok. Right. We are puzzled. How can they be independent? Can you please come and explain to us? We will consider your request for training. These letters are in black and white. But in the meantime, I had started a project. It is somewhat calling a worshipping, you know. Though I was an additional Solicitor General, I was a President's Counsel, I left all those my designation behind. As DG Bribery, I went before the Public Service Ministry, the Management Service Department, the Treasury, and submitted cabinet papers, pleaded with them, give me some graduates actually. So with great difficulty, the Public Service Commission approved my request. To get the approval, it took me nearly 1 year. No, Salaries and Cadre Commission, they don't want. Frankly speaking, they were never keen to strengthen the Bribery Commission. And the political higher-ups, they won't object, but they won't give the fullest support. So ultimately, we created 200 posts. For 200 posts, 10,000 applications came.
From graduates? From
graduates. And the Commissioner of Exams held a preliminary exam. He selected 400 and gave to me. So we had interviews. For those interview boards, we summoned other officers from the other various departments. Ultimately, we selected 200. That was about 1.5 years back. What happened to that 200? We went for security clearance, national intelligence. We got the security clearance. Still, those 200 out people have not been recruited to the Bribery Commission. I am not blaming the Bribery Commission. They can't just recruit. They need to be given the necessary funds from the necessary agency like the Treasury. So now we are talking about eradicating Bribery Commission. Even the selected 200 people have not yet been allowed to be recruited. So that is one aspect. So that is why we need to have a very sophisticated professional investigators. Unless you recruit them. I am not saying the present 200 police officers should be removed. Let them be there. On top of that, we will have another 200 officers. Then one day, we can see investigations like Hong Kong, Malaysia would happen. So, therefore, now just before I left the Bribery Commission, Hong Kong now wrote back to me. In fact, their chairperson have met me several times in international fora. We will send you our trainers to Sri Lanka. Give me a date and time, now we are prepared. Singapore wrote to me, Hong Kong wrote to me, Malaysia wrote to me, Bhutan wrote to me. All those documentation, communications now are with the Bribery Commission.
So is Sri Lanka really making use of these opportunities?
That's the thing. I am no longer there. But I think I have, with all humility, I have done the most difficult part. Now someone else, there has to be some leadership, someone should come there and give the courage. Don't blame the present commissioners, don't blame the present DG. They can do a good job of work, but you need the resources. Best example is Article 6 and 36 of the anti-corruption, that is UNCAC, United Nations Convention Against Corruption. Those articles refer to the independence and the efficiency of the anti-corruption agencies. What do you mean by independent? Independent means you have to have your own funding directly from the parliament. You should not go and kneel down and worship before the treasury. That is what we do. For every minute thing, we have to go and plead like any other government department. In other countries, that never happens. We should be answerable to the parliament. Parliament must give our necessary funding. And of course, parliament can have several committees, and you can get the assistance of the necessary auditors and check how they are doing. That is monetary independence. Then what about the resources? We must have the independence. We means Bribery Commission must have the independence to select the people whom they want. Do they have that independence now? No. For a country like Bhutan, if the Commission wants any top officer in the government sector,
they can recruit.
They can recruit. No one can stop that.
That is maybe because those countries have given bribery or anti-corruption related priority in their country.
So, here, rather than talking in talk shows, have they given the topmost prior to the bribery, anti-corruption in this country?
Corruption always plays a huge role when it comes to the run-up to an election. Most of the views expressed by political candidates that we air on television stations, on social media, or on any form of media are allegations of corruption. But neither of them seem to be doing anything about it.
Then they must look at these laws too. I have already prepared the draft of the law. No, when I say I, it's a teamwork.
Right.
I may have given the leadership, but I have got the assistance of other people, especially there are young 2 or 3 girls in the Bribery Commission, all other important sector.
So this draft anti-corruption laws that you say you prepared and submitted to the Legal Draftsman's Department over 1.5 years ago, what sort of changes really does it introduce to the current regime?
Basically, we as a country, we have only wanted to send the people onto the jail. No? That means the law enforcement. That means the theory of retribution. Fine, if you can do that, but no country has been successful by merely adapting that only one yardstick, one strategy. All other countries, they minimize the opportunities to commit the bribery. That is called prevention. Each and every government department has an officer called an integrity officer. An integrity officer.
Like an information officer?
Not information. Integrity. What is the role of the integrity officer? Role of the integrity officer is to see why certain opportunities are available for their officers to do bribery, commit bribery. And he has to plug those loopholes and introduce systems. In fact, when we launched our National Action Plan on the 18th of March 2018, along with that National Action Plan, we prepared a handbook called Integrity Handbook. This handbook contains the role of the integrity officer. All other countries, they may have different names. All other countries, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Bhutan, they have. For example, in other countries, you can't just walk to a government department and meet a person face to face.
Right.
When you allow a member of a general public to meet a public servant face to face, that allows the opportunities for bribery and corruption. You have to tender your application online, and you don't know which officer is dealing with the matter. Why? Right. They have already laid down the criteria, and you have to wait in the formal queue. You can't go out of the queue and give a
no preferential treatment.
No preferential treatment. So that the systems are in place. So even the approval for a particular application given by the boss, it happens online. So therefore, the moment you submit application, you are told these are the exact fees, these are the days that would take for your job, and if you don't get your job done, you can complain to this number. So have we developed those systems in our country? There are various allegations against various infamous government departments. No? You can easily introduce those things. No? Who is bothered? Rather than coming on TV and blackguarding certain government department, introduce these things. So we have now developed integrity officer. Now to strengthen the role of the integrity officer, each and every anti-corruption commission, they have officers called prevention officers. Their role is not to go and catch bribery officers, bribe takers. Their duty is to guide the integrity officers in each and every government department. So likewise, for the first time in our country, I made representation to those government agencies, got the approval. So we got more than 3,000 applications. We selected 50 prevention officers. Again 1.5 years back, what happened? Still not taken. They cannot be taken unless necessary funding is allocated. The funding have been approved already. Without funding, we wouldn't have recruited. But physically, those funds have to be given to the bribery.
Is the Bribery Commission getting a stepmotherly treatment?
Definitely, definitely. In my view, I can now say, because you have to go before the treasury, even meet assistant secretaries and plead with them as if this is my personal job. I have done that for the sake of the country. Now I can take straight away, since I am no longer there. You know, some officers are very junior to me, even who are in the treasury. You know, sometimes you are humiliated when you ask for money. Right. For example, once I went and met some officer, that officer is of the opinion, you must allow some corruption to happen in the country, then only investors would come to the country. See the response I get. So now with all those, I have never said these things previously. Now I can say, but through experience I have undergone. Anyhow, now 50 prevention officers have been selected. Their security clearance have already been taken. Now they have to be recruited.
But over 1.5 years, they're still not recruited?
No, not a single person has been recruited.
You spoke about this officer who said that there must be some corruption in the country. He's not the only officer who said that. There have been other high-profile politicians even who have come out and said that in public. But that is really an echo of the sentiment that general public in Sri Lanka holds. Some people, many people believe that to get something done from a government institution, there is a mandatory requirement to pay a certain bribe. That is just how things are done. Is this healthy?
That's the culture, no? So that is why someone must forward. The leadership must come forward and say, I will be very strict. If something happens, any corruption happens in a particular government department, I will be very stern. And at least there will be a disciplinary inquiry. So
for example, there were many allegations leveled against the RMV that when a person goes to Verahara or any public institution like that to get their driver's license, they have to pay massive amounts of bribes. You said that it's the general everyday man who comes forward and files a complaint and actually provides assistance to the Bribery Commission to go for a conviction or to at least go for a case. Haven't you received any complaints during your time period against these institutions?
I can generally say, because there's a secrecy clause in the Bribery Commission. Right. I can't divulge the what was there in the complaint. But subject to that, I can say, definitely, no big businessman would not come and make a complaint that a particular public servant working in a particular government department has asked for bribe me. If they have complained to us, definitely we have done. Of course, politicians would come and complain. They don't have evidence. They would collect various papers and hand over to the Bribery Commission and comes out, gives a TV interview near the wall of the Bribery Commission. So by that alone, you can't bring educate the general public.
So we're in the final few minutes of this show, and I'd really like to question you regarding Sri Lanka's campaign financing laws, because this is a huge area. Even in the United States, there were allegations that foreign countries meddled with the US election through funding and through various other channels. And the United States has very strict campaign financing laws. Compared to Sri Lanka, of course, do we have any campaign financing laws?
I will answer that question. Before that, what's the rationale behind campaign finance or any other corruption? It is a conflict of interest. What do you mean by conflict of interest? Conflict of interest is, if you are a public servant, if you are handling any transaction of a general public, you have to divulge whether you have a connection with the member of the general public, whether you have connection, whether you have a conflict, true conflict, or else you don't have a conflict today. You might have a conflict tomorrow. There's a potential conflict. You have to divulge. Number two. Number three, you don't have a conflict today. You won't have a conflict tomorrow also. But you know, people in the society thinks that I have a conflict. There's an appearance of conflict. If I know of, then I have to divulge. Then my boss will take a decision. I think that is the best way to nip the corruption. In this country, there is no law to say you must divulge. That is why in the new anti-corruption law, we have introduced several clauses say if you don't divulge, it will amount to an offence. That is why we have prepared conflict of interest rules also. Conflict. So this would say what do you mean by conflict of interest, right? So then coming back to that, we have launched National Action Plan here. There are various segments. There are certain tasks that have to be done within 1 year, certain things within 3 years, certain things within 5 years. We have itemized everything. Coming back to your question, after studying this, the chief priest in this country, the Mahanayaka Theras and other leading priests in this country, they have prepared a document that is for a better political culture in this country. And I know for sure this document they have prepared after studying our document.
Right.
I know for sure. And I know all these Mahanayaka Theras sign a common document and given to all the contestants in the presidential election. And they urge all these candidates not to give the nominations during the parliament election to the politicians who are coloured with bribery and corruption. I don't know, it is up to the
general public to judge
whether those things have really happened. So therefore, I think if you want to eradicate bribery and corruption, it must come from like Lee Kuan Yew, should come from the top. But with all due respect, I think the present president in his Saubhagya Dakma, he has clearly laid down a policy. I respect that. Only thing is, if we can take notice of what is here in the National Action Plan, there is nothing that he needs to prepare again. He needs not to do anything, everything is there. Someone must come forward, and ultimately the monitoring mechanism is with the President's Secretariat according to this document. There are 4 elements. One is we have to see how best we can enhance the value system. Number 2, how best we can have a prevention system. Number 3, to strengthen the existing system, law enforcement. That is the only system we know of. Number 4, amending the existing laws. There are time period given. Number 5 would be, or some agency must be there. There has to be a supreme body appointed by the president to see all these things are properly implemented. So I think if you start doing that, at least in few years time, we can see at least a reduction of the bribery and corruption. It must come from the top, definitely.
So there was a huge drive for making public asset declarations, especially during the previous presidential election as well as during the parliamentary election. However, sometimes when we question some of these candidates on why they don't want to make their asset declarations public, they say that, well, if we make our asset declarations public, people will find out how much money we have and then they will come and ask us for funding. Is this a fair argument against not introducing a mandatory?
Okay, I will give you, what do you mean by asset declaration? The rationale is this: as a public servant, if you ask for a bribe, it is an offence. Sometimes we can't catch them when they ask bribes. Instead, we see their assets have gone up, their liabilities have gone up. So, there is one section in the Bribery Act, section 23A. It says, if your assets and liabilities are not compatible with your known income, the deficit has been accrued through the means of bribery. So, that is called asset inquiry. In order to do asset inquiry, the first step what we do is to get the asset declaration the public servant has made every year to the head of the department. So, that is the base document. Now, our asset declaration law was introduced in the year 1988, last amendment. Since then again not a single amendment. What did we do? We studied how other countries have done. Even the public servants now, they have to prepare their asset declaration manually. It is childish to countries. We say our literacy rate is 92%, and senior top civil servants, they have to prepare their asset declaration manually. So, what did we do? I got the support from the World Bank and other agencies, and we have now prepared online asset declaration. We got the assistance of the ICTA. Now, the public servants everywhere they need not prepare. It is on their database, they have to update the asset declaration. Then what will happen? We have said all the asset declarations should be sent to one central agency. That should be one of the units of the Bribery Commission. So, once you get the asset declaration, and if there are complaints from someone, then they will.
You can cross-reference it and check.
Cross verification, and the Bribery Commissioner's department will be linked to other key government department like RME, Customs, so that they can check. So, that is the system we have introduced. In order to do that, we have in our new law, we have incorporated the relevant provisions also. So all those things have all come to a standstill.
We're in the final minute of this show, sir. My final question to you, how hopeful are you of solid anti-corruption laws being introduced in Sri Lanka? When will it materialize? Will it materialize?
90 or 95% of the work have already been done. Someone must take the leadership and go forward and implement it. So, most difficult parts we have done. Even the UN always asking, where is your national action plan? That because since we didn't have national action plan, they did not give the GSP plus facility also. Right. Since this was prepared, that was a turning point, we got the GSP plus. So, likewise, if we have introduced the new anti-corruption laws, I am sure investors would come to Sri Lanka. Why? They will have a system where there is a integrity is very high. So, my request is that everything is now ready. Of course, someone can make necessary changes. For example, UN prepared a document called Colombo Commentary on Anti-Corruption. They came to Sri Lanka. They brought 30 experts to Sri Lanka because they saw our progress. And what is the meaning of this document? This document is basically a guideline for all the anti-corruption agencies the world over. If you want to become independent and if you want to become efficient, what are the guidelines they should follow? And that is why they refer to as Colombo Commentary. That was launched few months back. Right. In their forward, they have paid a special tribute to me, UN. So we in the world scenario, I think we have done a lot of things. They appreciate this national action plan when we go to the UN ODC meeting. And they respect our country. Bhutan, their delegation last year came, one week they were here. So, only thing is we must take the leadership, not the Bribery Commission. They will be honest, they will do whatever they want to do. Of course, some must take charge of these matters and go forward. If someone come forward and do the necessary, the remaining things, I am hopeful that we can eradicate or at least minimize bribery and corruption in this country.
Thank you very much, President's Counsel Sarath Jayamanne, former Director General of the Bribery Commission, for joining us on our show and talking to us about this very pertinent topic to educate the general public.
Thank you very much for giving this valuable opportunity. Of course, I left the Bribery Commission 1 year back. Then I reverted to the Attorney General's Department as a Senior Additional Solicitor General. And from the Attorney General Department also, last Friday, I went out. I am no longer a public servant, so I have free ideas. So, I will come and discuss with you all these free ideas in time to come. Thank you very much for giving this very.
Thank you very much, sir. And thank you very much, of course, to all our viewers out there for tuning in. That's it from the Rule of Law for today. Until we meet again, take care and God bless.